My therapist goes, I have allergies.
I can help you out with that.
Yeah.
Welcome to Real Siblings, It Ain't Easy, a real estate podcast with the goal to educate, inform, and save their listeners time as they navigate the market and properties in their neighborhoods. Get ready to join real-life siblings and professional real estate advisors, Donna Reed and Eric Seemann, as they discuss how it may be simple, but it ain't always easy.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home. Yeah, yeah.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this real estate and lifestyle podcast that is altogether unconventional, unique, unusual, and seriously, it just ain't typical. I'm Eric, she's Donna, and we are the Real Siblings. We are both professional real estate agents with Keller Williams working in the southwest states of Texas, in my case, and Arizona in Donna's. For the record, Donna's allergies are nowhere near as severe as mine, and that comment's going to make a whole lot more sense as you listen to this episode. This podcast blends lifestyle together with real estate as we work to communicate, educate, connect, and entertain our listeners. While the topics vary and conversations go in a lot of different directions, we endeavor to provide our listeners with insights into the industry, better equipping them for their next real estate transaction. Now, we invite you to relax and allow us to edutain you for the next few minutes. And Donna, tell us, your background looks different.
I think one other time I was up here at Caleb and Jessica's in Denver filming. And so the guest room has, yes, Hugh Jackman and this really cool clock with dragons flying out of it. Nothing related to allergies that I know of, unless I'm allergic to either Hugh Jackman or dragons.
And you've never met Hugh Jackman, so you can't say specifically
I can't say
if you may or may not be allergic to him or not.
I would like to think that the answer to that would be no. So, when you said we should talk about allergies, I was like, what? I had allergies back in Ohio during harvest. I remember sucking down a whole lot of throat lozenges in the fall when they were bringing in the corn and the soybeans and everything. But I don't really deal with them in Arizona. So this is an area.
Parker Davis. Do you remember the little drawer of Parker Davis throat discs that Mom had for sore throats?
No.
It was a thing. They were really, really, really intense at the time. And I remember going in and sneaking them. I used to self-medicate on a variety of things. But more on that is coming.
All right. You say Parker Davis, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that tangent is. All right. So you have always dealt with more allergies than I have. And you actually have a picture related to that behind you.
Yes.
Go back and tell our listeners about you as a youngster in Ohio.
Yeah, I guess I'll use a little bit, reference Arizona, not too far down the road from you, Tombstone. If you remember the movie Tombstone, Val Kilmer playing Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
He had tuberculosis, but he referred to himself as a lunger. And they used to jab at him for being a lunger. And I don't have tuberculosis, but I have always, if I got sick, I didn't do it halfway.
Right.
And I recall the house on Main Street in Lindsey, which we've talked about in past episodes. Ken and I were in bunk beds. He was on top since he was the older. Sibling. I was the youngest. I was on the bottom bunk. And Mom and Dad putting together some sort of tent enclosure with sheets, blankets, towels, maybe a little plastic to create an area that I had to lay in. And then Mom put a humidifier in there. There was some sort of menthol in it. I don't think they were using eucalyptus at the time.
Did they vapor rub on your chest? Because I remember a whole lot of diapers with Vicks. She would warm.
Oh yeah, Mom would warm those up in the oven, but she'd put the vapor rub on your chest, and then a hot diaper or towel would come afterwards, and just kind of like, oh yeah, that feels good. But yeah, for as long as I can remember, and dadgum, I'm going through this, and I'm trying to remember who was our pediatrician, who was our doctor. All I remember it is Dr. McCune, our dentist, and I cannot think of who.
Okay, I'm going to think about. Was there a Wolf? Dr. Wolf?
Dr. Wolf.
Dr. Wolf? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've been doing this long enough that I remember getting prescriptions filled of Benadryl. Prescriptions before it was over the counter and all the different derivatives. And I got prescription drink Benadryl, and then they made them bigger. So I got a double sized at one point. Benadryl. So I've been taking that drug for so long. People talk about, oh, Benadryl, it makes me so drowsy. It's like, there are times when I am fighting my allergies down here in Texas because of the tree behind me that I will take 3 or 4 in a day. And
I would sleep the whole
continue
day.
to work and operate and go straight through and not even think about it.
Wow. Well, and as we think about it, so I don't think Dan dealt with many issues. Dan had eyesight, but not allergies, right? And then same with Ken. I don't remember Ken being ever as sick. So you certainly got the best of the allergy piece related to.
Yeah, Dad used to say that I got his brains and good looks and Mom's allergy.
And I think he told all of us that in one way. Yeah, one way or another.
Well, clearly I didn't get his hairline. And I didn't get Mom's hairline either. So
that's true. That's true. Thankfully, yeah. Thankfully, I got Mom's a little bit more.
And it's been years later now that I'm officially diagnosed as an asthmatic and I have COPD. Doctors said that they were reluctant to diagnose that when we were kids, because at that point it had such a potential big impact on your life, because kids would not, if they had asthma, they'd be limited in recess and gym class, in sports, and everything else. So they've told me, based on my symptoms and how severe I am, that I've been an asthmatic all my life. When I was younger, I didn't use the inhalers. I never had inhalers prescribed, but it is something that I have dealt with my entire life. And they're saying, yeah, you were. They just didn't use it because of this. You were young. You hadn't even started sports in school, so they didn't want you to be impacted by that.
Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned back in Ohio, harvest season. So we called it what? The big thing was when they brought in the
we called it, we had hay fever. Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah.
Right. And who actually, I don't even know how those two words got matched up together, because does anybody actually have a fever related to the allergens?
Yeah.
Did you know anybody who
got a fever?
Was severe enough that was...
No, I feel like I remember itchy eyes, snotty noses, lots of sneezes. And as a youngster, I coughed a lot, and I had my tonsils and adenoids out like in 4th grade. But I would get to the fall of the year, and especially when we had moved down after I was married, right by the grain elevator. You know, those last few years before we came back to Arizona, I had a whole lot going on with during harvest when they were bringing in the crops back there. But I don't think it was hay. It was corn, it was soybeans.
Right. It wasn't. But anything that was an allergy in Ohio was like, oh, I have hay fever.
Yeah. That's true.
Yet you went out and made hay, right? Didn't you go out and make hay?
No, you boys did that. I did not.
I was going to say, I thought you went out with Druckenmiller one time.
Oh, maybe.
I know you went and hoed the beets.
Yes. Wow. Fond memories. Let's fast forward, Eric.
And the making hay thing and what it did to your arms, you learned real quick that even if it got hot, you kept long sleeves on, because that other part was... Yeah. Before we get into our regions, our grandfather, when he was not a magician, when he was not performing, when he was... At one point, he had a real job, which was hard for me to comprehend. Right. And he worked for a company that was called Hazema. And Hazema is a combination of 2 words. Actually, maybe 3 words, since we call it hay fever. The blending of hay and asthma to create the name of this medication. And they said, I don't ever remember taking it.
No, and you and I were just talking before we started recording about whether or not that was a prescription or an over-the-counter. And, you know, our memories of it were, like you said, advertising balloons that were super good balloons that were heavy and filled with water and didn't break easily and anything like that. But that was where Grandpa worked his whole life to actually get a paycheck, as compared to the rest, which, you know, I don't think we have any idea whether he made much money as a magician or made much money.
Well, and there were a couple of times after he had moved into Hazel Crest that you'd go to the office, because he moved because the office moved. And it was
very
easier
close
to get to, and he didn't have to worry about a train or anything else, since Grandpa didn't drive. Yeah. That was not a very impressive. It was just kind of the business office. They didn't do any manufacturing there.
No, but didn't it seemed like they packaged things. We're going to have to ask some of our Chicago friends whether or not, or do some Googling afterwards to find out. Does it still exist? I don't know if you looked that up, and is it a prescription or is it not or whatever?
But yeah, were they a bit? Was that like a licensing who manufactured for some other brand?
Right.
That was the business behind the business. Maybe Mark Torsberg would know since he works for Welvy.
He might.
And is kind of in that world, or may have. So it may be a Mark Torsberg question that we have.
And he's still back in Chicago.
And he's still back in Chicago. So
what are you allergic to now, Eric? Tell us.
All right. So if you're watching the video, or there is a picture of a tree that looks like it's covered in smoke and it's on fire. That is not actually fire. That is the active. This is a photo captured of a mountain cedar, which here in Texas is an ash juniper, and it is in the process of releasing pollen because the mountain cedar is a dioecious tree, meaning there's a male tree and there's a female tree. And the female trees create the berries that feed the birds and harvest to make gin. That's where juniper comes from, or gin comes from juniper. The male tree is the one that pollinates, and it starts in November here and goes kind of into where we're at right now, middle of February, end of February.
Okay.
But the tree gets to the point where the pollen sacs are completely full, and a combination of just the right temperature and the right wind currents can make the entire tree, every single pollen sac at the tree at one time, explode. Wow. And that's what's going on behind me. And I mean, I've driven down the road since I've lived here, and you can drive down the roads and you'll watch trees ahead of you all of a sudden just go and release. And I said I was going to grab it. I forgot to during our break. This time of year, I walk my dogs since I'm outside 20 to 25 minutes at a time. If I'm going to be out for prolonged times, I wear a gaiter over my whole face, neck mask. And the reason I use a gaiter is with the beard, it covers and makes sure that. And then I use Nelly meds. I have to rinse. I have to medicate. I take stuff all the time.
You know what a gaiter is?
It would be almost like a scarf, but it just comes down and it helps to cover your nose and mouth. It's really, really thin. It's not like a cold weather thing. It's designed to help keep the allergens and that kind of stuff. For whatever
reason, I'm picturing like a CPAP on the road or something. I'm like, what are you wearing?
Yeah, no. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
You have a variety of the same tree out in your area.
Do we? Which one is that, Eric?
That you have. So apparently the junipers really exist heavily in the western states, and it starts in Texas with the hill country, which is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then the higher elevations and up to the mountains, all the way into Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, have different varieties of these junipers. Ours is officially an ash juniper, which from a slang term has been gotten to be known as a mountain cedar. In your area, it is Arizonia juniperus, which is the Arizonia juniper. And it's the same sort of thing. They're up in the mountains where you're at.
Okay, I was going to say, that's not something that we see down at my level when I'm selling homes. So I asked at physical therapy the other day,
which is a logical place to ask about.
I know, right? I said, I'm supposed to film this thing with my brother, and he's telling me he wants to talk about allergies, and I don't have allergies. My therapist goes, I have allergies.
I can help you out with that.
Yeah. So for me, I know that one of the trees that we have, the Palo Verde, which is the green trunk tree, when it blooms in the spring, it gets a yellow bloom that everybody who's going to be allergic in Tucson is probably allergic to that when they bloom. It is one of the prettiest times of year when you're up at the hills.
They're beautiful.
And you're looking down.
Beautiful.
It's like a carpet. But with beauty comes allergies, it seems like. And you had said that we have more of this in Arizona than you do in Texas, are the cottonwood and sycamore. So, we have, with the mountains, we have the water runoff, and we have some areas that maybe you wouldn't expect. And so all over Arizona, when you drive near the waterways, there are some cottonwood trees and some of the sycamores and things. And those there's a lot of allergies too. But again, higher levels typically, not always. Even on that drive, when I come up to Denver from Arizona and go through New Mexico, you can see them lining, the waterways in outside of like Albuquerque and stuff.
Well, and you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, since I already mentioned Tombstone, I think one of the final scenes where Doc Holliday fights and kills Johnny Ringo in the movie Tombstone, they're along a creek bed that is lined with cottonwood trees.
Yes. Yeah. And again, pretty trees.
Yeah, because they have nice bark. They have a unique, it's not as vibrant as an aspen, but very, very similar.
But the leaf is similar to an aspen and everything. So those are two that I hear a lot. And then we have a weed that grows that's called desert broom, and it can line the highway. And like your ash behind you or whatever, or when I think of a dandelion, everybody blowing on, like that. So the desert broom looks so pretty to me when they're blooming because they look soft and fluffy. And since almost everything in Arizona is sharp and poisonous, according to my children, every plant's sharp. It's pretty to see the desert broom. And when you're out walking your dog or doing whatever,
you'll see them floating in the air.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have to check that then, because if you've got it as a desert broom, here that plant is commonly referred to as a poverty weed. And there's a particular variety of butterfly that comes out here in Texas called a snout. And I have a slow motion video of snout butterfly swarming a poverty weed before it pollinates or before it's in full, that just thousands of butterflies. It was pretty amazing moment, but I've got to think it's that they're similar again, if not the same plant and just different names commonly known as.
That could be. And then the other one that honestly, full disclosure, you guys, my brother sent me a whole bunch of text messages with what causes
late last night.
Yes. I was like, enough about the allergies. But one of our beautiful spring flowers is a golden poppy. And we have had a very unusual amount of rain for us. I should go back and check the numbers, because sometimes Arizona gets 2 inches in a year. And starting right around Christmas, we've had a lot. I have a ton of weeds, which is not normal. And it means we're going to have a lot of pretty spring flowers, and thus a lot of golden poppies, which brings more allergies, with it. But they're beautiful, and they just line the hillsides and things like that.
All right. Now, you talked about the Palo Verde. What about the orange blossoms? I know from visiting with Steph up in Phoenix and Scottsdale area, there's an orange blossom, and I mean, they smell great. But again, the allergens are so severe. The rest of the season, because some of that information that I sent you is from an app that I actually have on my phone. And it's like, yes, it's enough of a thing here in Texas that there's an app, and I check it pretty much every day to see where we're at. And
is that where you got all those things?
That's where I've got those images that I sent to you that list the plant. It's called Allergy Plus. And just as a note here, we do not get any kind of endorsement, or there's nothing. It's just an app that I use that I have found is pretty darn accurate, letting me know what's going on. But in that, you can break it down and see, here's the total year, highs and lows, peaks and valleys of allergen season. And right now we're kind of similar. But here in Texas, we have many more grasses and things like that you don't have to deal with.
Which I can see in the picture behind you that line the road. Yeah.
And the flowering plants that go with it that come along. We have a much broader, I'll say worse allergy season across the board all year, because there's always something pollinating.
Yeah. When you and I were talking again beforehand, so for the rest of you, if you think those of you that are listening that we don't plan this, we actually do talk in advance a little bit. And we were talking about the fact that no matter where Eric has lived, he has had some he's been allergic to something. Doesn't matter where he's been. I'm like, but we want people to move where we live. We want, we don't.
That's right.
We don't want to make it sound awful.
Right. We talked about the fact that we all move for different reasons. Some people, and we do naturally, since we have military families get orders, and you go where your orders send you. So you have no choice. Yep. And sometimes it could be the job and the job opportunity or the job promotion. And it's like, well, yeah, but we're going to move you to here. and you've got to move. What we're really kind of focusing on is, number one, if you're going to do that, be prepared, get the information, do some research on it, and ask your real estate agent about it. And if it's one of those that you actually can just make a choice. My oldest granddaughter lives in Lisbon, Portugal. It was a lifestyle choice. It was a personal thing. Did she worry about checking the allergens before she got there? Probably not. She liked the climate. She liked the people. There were a lot of things about it. But it's when you get to the choice, it may just be something you want to consider if you've had some past issues.
Yeah.
Even traveling time. Do you go travel during a peak allergen system?
Yeah. Well, and I just had a visitor at my house who lives East Coast predominantly. And I have to say, he was sneezing and stuff a lot. And that was within like 24 hours. So he goes, I don't know if it's the dryness. I don't know if it's, what it is, because now we did have a lot of rain and a lot of wind, which could be doing anything, right? But sometimes just 24 hours in a new location can give you an idea of how you're going to react to it. And you may or may not get used to it. I mean, I think now, I joke about how back east, wood would swell and doors, would be too bad. And here they crinkle up. Same with skin, right? We're always lotioning and stuff like that. And so when I go back to the Midwest and my rings are tight, I'm like, oh, I have some moisture in my, so allergies is just one more piece, right? Of a difference in where you live and what you become accustomed to. And, for me, I feel blessed. I know people that are the opposite. They were never allergic in the Midwest, and now they are in Arizona. So,
and that's true. I mean, I moved here in 1992. I think we were about 8 years in before I started having real issues with cedar. Yeah. So it took a while to build up in your system. And then I mentioned, as we talked before this, that when the news posts the allergy report, allergens are high typically, and in mountain cedar's case, my worst allergy is high when it hits 500. And it'll be shown in the red zone in the little graphic they put on the weather in the morning. It has been as high, say, in the years that I've been here, as high as 60,000. And I'm going, what's the point of saying something's high at 50 if it can get that high? And I think historically the record is sometime back in the 1980s, late 1980s, where it was almost 80,000. And that is particles in a cubic meter of airspace. And it feels to me like if I was looking at that tree behind you, you'd be walking right in the middle of it, like right there. Your face would be in the middle of that tree. And it's like, there's a fog here, and it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. So, and I don't know that there's anywhere in the world you can go. And again, I've been thinking through it since we started talking about this being the topic, about how my eyes have been so dry lately in Arizona. And how I now travel with good eye drops. And because here I am in Denver, Arizona's usually dry, but we've had a lot of rain. Now I'm in a house where I'm upstairs with heat, which means it's dry in the house, and my eyes are dry. Also, there's a piece of me that goes, but how much time do we spend looking at computers as compared to just functioning in the rest of the world and looking around, and am I not blinking? So what part of my dry eyes is, that was a great squint, Eric. That was a great blink.
Thanks. I did that for those of you on video.
So, what part of what we sense and feel and hear is related to dryness versus moisture versus allergies? Like I don't think my eye stuff is allergies. I think it's just dryness. I don't know. And if I don't go to a doctor and they don't tell me, then it doesn't exist.
And now there's the whole aging thing. And are we getting dry eyes from aging and all the rest of those things? Is our other body parts, is our other body parts failed? Hello, knee replacements.
Yes. I've walked up and down the stairs here to this bedroom already like 5 or 6 times. And I only got here yesterday. It's 10 or 11 weeks since my surgery, and I'm doing fine. My balance is pretty, okay, I'm just going to say it's sucky. You can choose to edit that out or not. Having had the hip replaced on that side and now the knee, and you realize how you've kind of been, handling it for a while. It's a process for sure to get stronger. When they say, what'd you do at physical therapy? And you're like, I walked. Woo-hoo.
That's right. It's those big things. I took a picture this morning. I had to go in for some labs at the VA. And I don't know if you saw my Instagram post. There's a sign. You're looking at a staircase up the side of a hill that's about 8 to 10 stairs, and they had to bother to put a sign next to it that says, warning, this is not a wheelchair accessible entrance. It's like, was that necessary?
Yeah.
So some allergens may be present wherever you go to live, and we'd be interested to know, is there something that's affected you? If you're listening, let us know.
Yeah. Have we exhausted this topic?
Well, at least for right now, we've talked airborne allergens. We really have not talked about all the rest. Like, as I'm researching on this, it's like,
you mean like foods and
allergens
things?
and the coughing reflex versus you can have voluntary and involuntary.
Right.
Cough, and even the number of times a person on average. Like they're saying kids, because parents are overreactive nowadays. It's like, oh, they're coughing. Like, it is normal for a child to have a coughing episode 10 or 11 times a day. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that there's some sort of irritant.
Yeah. Eric, I have to say that I thought a lot about this as you were doing Santa during the Christmas season, because for a few years, Santa visited via Zoom, right? And then you did a couple more. And then this year you did quite a bit. And because of your own susceptibility to things, now you're in a world with slobbery kids.
Slobbery, germ-filled petri dishes.
No different than the teacher that teaches in a kindergarten class or something, right? You know, snotty noses and coughs and all that. And I thought a lot. And additionally, because you run hot-blooded, you're dressed in heavy clothes, and it might have been 70 degrees outside. So you have the heat going on and things like that. And why don't you talk for a minute while I text and tell Caleb what I want for lunch? Okay.
All right. Well, while you text, I will close us down.
Okay.
All right. So we want to thank everyone for listening. Joining us, we recalled how life in our small village of Lindsey, Ohio impacted our lives, careers, and real estate, maybe where we lived. It isn't just the houses, it isn't just the lifestyle, but a wonderful blend of the two. As we conclude this episode, please keep in mind that our goal is to communicate, educate, entertain, and connect with you, our listeners. We are both realtors with Keller Williams and are here to help you find the perfect property for your family to call home and create your own lasting memories while you build a wonderful life. If you're in San Antonio or Central Texas, I'm available to assist you, while Donna's in Tucson, Arizona. If you're across the United States, around the world, we're both part of extensive networks of professional real estate advisors, and we would be happy to connect you with an amazing realtor. Remember, maybe simple, but it ain't always easy. And until next time, I'm Eric.
And I'm Donna.
And we are Real Siblings. Yay. Hopefully your order went in okay.
Yeah, I'm like texting lettuce, tomato. See ya, Eric.
Bye.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home.
Hi, I'm Annabelle, and I want to thank you for investing your valuable time in listening to Real Sibling. It Ain't Easy. I hope you found this episode informative and enjoyable. There are several ways you can support this podcast with my Grandpa Eric and Aunt Grandma. Please take the time to like, follow, and subscribe. Additionally, leave them a 5-star rating along with a review on your preferred podcast platform. The final thing I would ask is that you recommend this podcast to a friend, a family member, or an associate. Your engagement is critical to their ongoing success, and they look forward to connecting. Check out the show notes Grandpa put together with their contact information, including emails, phone numbers, and website. And remember, the Real Siblings look forward to hearing from you.